How do I overcome the fear of being seen and stepping out of my comfort zone? This was a question that a beautiful woman who's in my vortex, she's come to a couple of the retreats that I've co hosted. She reached out and asked me this today, and I wanted to pop on and speak to it because this is obviously a huge part of the work I've done in my own life and the work that I assist other women in doing. It's very much deeply related to my 3-month Thrive course, which is all about reprogramming, getting out of the limiting beliefs and the self doubt so that you can build confidence and start showing up as your true self. But I want to quickly speak to it here and share some of the things that I discussed with her on this call. Because when I think of where I was when I first started out, I had a lot of insecurities, a lot of anxiety, a lot of beliefs that nobody cared what I had to say, that I didn't matter at all, and a lot of fear of judgment. So it was extremely terrifying to put myself out there. And the only way I was able to do it was, well, two key things that I did. The very first one was that I made a commitment to just getting a little bit better every single day in terms of if it terrifies me to show up on camera and to speak about things, and if I'm in perfection mode and I don't know what I'm going to say or what's the right thing to say or how do I do this, I'm just going to take a baby step every single day. So I set a 60-day challenge for myself of I'm going to show up on Instagram stories every single day for 60 days. And who knows what I'm even going to talk about? And who knows if it's actually going to be helpful or beneficial or push the needle forward in my business. But it's going to build confidence for myself and it's going to normalize a new habit. And that's one of the most important things is that it's all about building new habits, right? And I speak to this a lot because your current identity has beliefs and actions and habits that are probably very different from your desired identity. So, for this woman I was talking to today, she wants to put herself out there in the world. She's got so many beautiful gifts to share, but she's really scared of taking up space. She's got a lot of beliefs and fears because of childhood, because of conditioning, because of lack of support in her environment, and all these things that are making it so constricting for her to put herself out there in the world. If you can relate, please let me know. And it's holding her back. And what was so emotional for her is that she knows she's beyond ready. And she knows that, like, she's at this place where she's like, I cannot stay where I am. And I don't want to be in this same spot a year from now. But I feel so much fear about putting myself out there. And I just don't even, I don't even know where to start. So my advice for the first part was like the daily habit. What is the one thing you can do each day? For me, it was showing up on Instagram stories, but for her, it could be writing a post, even if the post is like 3 sentences long, but you're just sharing something that was helpful for you or something that you think would be inspiring, right? And so for you, whether this is related to a business venture, like my examples are like hers, or it's just something of putting yourself out there in the world in a new way. Well, the only way to get from 0 to 100 is to take the steps, right? I don't know anything about cars, but unless you're driving like a super fancy car that can go to from 0 to 100 really quickly, most of the time it's going to take a little bit to build up to get to that. And that's no different than us, right? If you're expecting to go from insecure and maybe doubting yourself, holding back, feeling all this fear, to being the most confident person in the room or in your business or online by tomorrow, well, like you're kind of setting yourself up for not only a lot of pressure to suddenly make that quick of a shift, but also probably bringing in a lot of extra fear and doubt and overwhelm of like, how do I get there right now? Right? Because that gap feels so big to bridge from 0 to 100. But if you say, I'm going to show up tomorrow and do this one thing differently than I did today, and then the next morning you do the same thing, that one thing, right? In a week's time, you've suddenly normalized something in your nervous system that beforehand was really stressful and scary. So, as I was saying to her today, the first week of showing up on Instagram stories was like terrifying for me. I remember so much anxiety. I remember rewatching one of the videos a while back, and I had like oh I looked like an RCMP, like a Canadian Mountie officer. I had a really big sweater on, my weird hat, and I was so nervous. My shoulders were up, my neck was scrunched. I was just like, but I was like, I did it. I showed up and I talked about God knows what. And by the end of the first week, I was like, oh, okay, this doesn't feel as scary anymore. This emotional charge that was creating so much pain and tension in my body, it feels like it's leaving. It's maybe not fully gone, and I'm still figuring things out, and I still can build confidence. But you've started to normalize a new action and a new habit for yourself, which is, without me getting too crazy into brain stuff, like you've just created a new neural network, a new pathway. And the more you do it, the stronger that pathway becomes. So, the perfect example that I come back to a lot to relate to is if you have a bar of soap and you're moving your finger back and forth. It starts out with like a little groove, and the more you do it, the deeper that groove is going to get. That's the exact same with our thoughts as well as with our identity and our actions. So if you think a belief every day that you're not good enough, or that it's not safe for you to do this thing, or that nobody cares and it's better off that you just don't even try, the first day you think that, who knows how early it started? Maybe it started in your childhood. The first day you think that, you're pushing that groove on the soap bar, right? You think it a lot the next day. You're making that groove bigger. 10 years later, you've thought this every single day. That groove is probably massive. That neural network, that pathway in your brain is so strong because you've been wiring and sending this message over and over and over again, right? You've been reinforcing that story. And your actions match it, like it's just constantly getting stronger. So you have to understand that although we can use tools like hypnosis and other things I speak to with quantum healing, and you can have quick shifts with like quantum leaping into a new reality. A lot of times, especially at the beginning, I would say, and especially with those things that have very deep and very strong emotions attached to them, a lot of times it is about the small daily baby steps because you're trying to go from this really deep groove that you've been reinforcing potentially your whole life to reinforcing and starting a new one from scratch. And if you're not taking the daily actions to start that new one, your brain is just going to revert to the old one because it's there, it's already ready, it's waiting for you. It's so deeply ingrained and normalized for you. So the daily action steps or the daily new belief, and making that little bit of forward momentum is what's going to allow you to start to go, oh, okay. Like I said, for me, after a week, I went, okay, I can do this. This is starting to feel a little bit safer, a little bit more normal. By 1 month, I was like, oh, yeah, this is cool. This is fun. I'm liking this. By 1 year, oh my gosh, the amount of growth I'd had in that time was massive. And it just continues to normalize the new story or the new identity, right? But if we hold back and we don't take any new action, then all we're doing is sitting in the stagnancy of the old self, of the deep groove that we don't want to be in. And it's causing so much pain and potentially a lot of emotions, a lot of tears and fears, and like desperate desire to not be there. But you've got to give yourself a chance. You've got to give yourself that opportunity to go from 0 to 100 by starting by going from 0 to 1 and then 0 to 2. Maybe you're able to jump and then go to 0 to 5, right? And then the next day you're at 10. And it's that compound effect that eventually starts to build upon itself and does defy logic or linear fashion. But you'll never get any of that if you don't take the first step, right? Which leads me into the second point that I want to touch on in this video that I shared with her, which has to do with this is why reinforcing the future identity, the future self, and the future reality is crucial, because your current self is so stuck in excuse me, what you perceive to be true. And if you're telling the same story all day, every day, then you're going to have a hard time believing in your desire. So there's something I like to call healthy delusion, which is very much of getting into the imagination and the play and the excitement of like, okay, let's use her example again, because this is what I said to her today. You're wanting to put yourself out there as a coach, but your fear of being seen or judged, taking up space, is holding you back. But what would it feel like? What's the deeper why behind this? And what would it feel like if right now you received a message from one of your clients who was so grateful and so emotional and so deeply moved by how much you had helped her? And like, how can you, if you feel that in your body, how good does that make you feel? That probably makes it feel worth it to overcome what seems like this huge hurdle and this huge block for you. But it's actually just a few small steps to start the momentum going. And then you start to see what's possible and see what's on the other side. It's hard to see what's on the other side when you're stuck in the fear of the old self or the small self. But when you start to think from the future self or the higher self, and you see that vantage point perspective looking down of what's waiting for you, it makes the steps not seem so scary. So for me, I had this huge fear of visibility and speaking and being judged for showing up, right? But my why was so deep that like I knew with every cell in my body that I'm here to help people, and I knew and could envision that like someday I'd be helping millions and reaching so many people and having the best-selling books and like doing the retreats and having the courses and like having all these different channels and avenues to just share my message and help people. And that why was so strong, that deep desire and that feeling of how beautiful, like how fulfilling it would be to have someone say that I've helped them change their life, or that like what I shared or what I said like made such a difference for them. It makes me want to cry thinking about it, because like that's that's the fuel for me that was worth overcoming my own fear to get there. And as I focused on the desire and focused on whether it was through meditation, through breath work, through journaling, through my dance parties, and like just getting in this little vortex, this bubble of, oh my gosh, I wonder how amazing it will feel when I've signed my first client. I wonder how amazing it will feel when I've hit this certain income goal, when I've reached this number of people, when I'm showing up on camera really confident, or when I'm getting the podcast interviews, or I'm doing these things, or I've had my book, get published. Whatever the desire is, you want to start identifying with it like it's already here. You want to start normalizing it. And the more you focus on that, you're literally shifting your frequency to become a vibrational match. You're literally getting into alignment with what you do want instead of what you don't want. So when we stay stuck in the repetitive patterns and beliefs and habits of the old self, that, as I said, that gap feels so distant, and the fear or doubt can feel so strong. But imagine if you devoted 10 minutes in the morning and 10 minutes at night to like sit there, take a few deep breaths, put your hand on your heart, and think about your desire and feel the good feeling thoughts and the good frequency, and like recalibrate yourself to, whoa, this thing, it's available to me. It might not be here yet, but I know that it's coming, and it's going to feel so incredible. And because I can see or feel or already imagine the person saying, wow, thank you so much, you've impacted my life, and like this is the thing I was now able to do, or I overcame that, whatever your why is, that allows you to more confidently take the aligned action to get there. So this woman today who wants to start her coaching business and be more empowered in it, the second I got her to tap into that feeling and visualize, like, imagine that you've just received a message from someone who read one of your posts and it like clicked and it helped her so much. How would that feel? And like she bursts out into tears, right? And she's like, that's all I want. Like, to that feeling of who I am matters, and who I am is valuable, and what I'm sharing is needed, and it's benefiting someone. And that makes it worth it to overcome the necessary shifts and growth to step into the future self. So this is my invitation to you. Really start tuning into those things and looking at, what can I do today to push the needle forward a tiny bit more? What would that feel like? What's the desired reality? And that leads me into, I have an incredible 5-day challenge. It's totally free, and it's based on this premise, and it's based on a lot of what I've shared with you here today, but it's filled with journal prompts to help you reflect, and really beautiful visualizations to connect to this desire and to clear out the things that are in the way. And I've seen incredible transformations happen from these 5 days alone, because we're basically doing this exact process that I've just described in terms of connecting to the future vision. What is it you really want? What is it you want to get to? What is that dream day? How are you feeling? Who are you with? What are you doing? Right? How can we connect to that and normalize it and allow that to be the thing that pulls you forward? Instead of the fear holding you back, let's let the desire pull you forward, right? Let's let that influence how you're showing up instead. And then, what are the beliefs that you would have? What actions would you be taking? connecting deeper to your higher self. So you have that vantage point to like look down upon and go, oh yeah, this is the next step to take. This is the best thing to do. Trusting your intuition, trusting that you're supported in doing these things, and really showing up from that place. And clearing out the noise as you go, getting rid of those really deep, deeply ingrained grooves of the old belief patterns, and stepping into slowly but surely starting the new groove, starting the new beliefs, really shifting your story. So if you want to dive into that, I'll drop the link for that down below, the 5-day challenge. And I would love to hear from you the shifts that take place as you go through it, because I know it will illuminate a lot for you and really help you step into a more empowered version of you and make the necessary changes to start getting there. And then, as I said, breaking down what are just like daily, maybe baby steps, but like let this video, don't just like take in the things that I've said and ignore it. And don't just think, oh, it's too simple, so I'm not going to do it, because like it's the simplest things that actually work. That's why we usually don't do them, because we think it's too easy, but it's like God designed a lot of things to be very easy. It's just the mind that wants to make it really hard and really complicated. But like the easiest thing is to literally be like, okay, this tiny habit tomorrow. And eventually we build on it. And eventually you can add more habits or more shifts or whatever it is. But like you've got to start somewhere. So get clear on that and make tomorrow, or possibly today, depending what time you're watching this, the first day that you start it. Because unless you commit to it now, you'll always have an excuse, you'll always have a reason not to. So taking those daily steps, making that your new normal, envisioning that version of you who's already done it, because it's really easy for them. If you've already done the thing that you're currently afraid of, the fear would be gone. You know, you'd already be at the satisfaction of the result. You'd already be at the success of the end game. So there's no fear over there. You've just removed all fear or doubt or overwhelm. You've collapsed everything by getting into the frequency of already having it. Neville Goddard talks about the wish fulfilled. That's why. If you are living from the wish fulfilled, if you're living from it's normal, it's easy, you get there so much faster. It's like when I do ice baths. I've been going to them a lot here in Mexico, and we only go in for like 3.5 minutes because then there's all these people. But the first little bit of the ice bath is like the worst, right? Because it's the shock and your mind's thinking all these things and wants to get out or whatever. And I just get in there and I imagine like, I've already been in here for 10 minutes. So I just tell myself that I'm already at the end result. And immediately everything shifts and I'm like, ah, and it doesn't feel as bad, because I'm basically like tricking myself to think that, oh yeah, this isn't a shock to your system. This isn't uncomfortable. You've been in here for 10 minutes. It's easy. It's chill. Quite literally. It's all good. And then it allows the experience to be so much better. So instead of thinking that you're in this stage one where all the fear or potential negative emotions are, what if you tricked yourself into believing you already had it? What if you tricked yourself into thinking, oh, I've already been showing up on camera for 2 months now, so I'd probably actually not have any resistance. I'd probably be a little bit more confident. I'd probably show up this way, right? Or I've already been coaching for 2 months or 3 months or a year. When I wanted to bring in my first client, I was like, how would I show up if I already had 100? If I'd already coached 100 people, I wouldn't have any weirdness about talking to this person. But when I think about the fact that I've never coached anyone and I'm trying to find my first client, that's terrifying. There's so many what ifs, there's so many fears, there's so many doubts about like, can I actually provide the service that I'm offering? Will they get the results? Will they think it's worth it? So many ways to then avoid and hold back and be small and not even take action at all because you're like, this step one is so scary. But again, if you start to just trick yourself and think from a different perspective and go, yeah, this isn't stage one. If I've already overcome stage one and I'm at stage five or stage 10, I'd be feeling really relaxed about this. If I've already had the uncomfortable conversation and we're at the end result, I'd feel a lot more easy in my body. I'd feel a lot safer and more confident to do it. So it's all these little mind games, so to say, where you are tricking yourself, but mostly empowering yourself to just see through a better lens, a lens that supports you in becoming the fullest expression of who you know you're here to be. Because you wouldn't be having those desires to do more unless they were meant for you. This woman, she wouldn't be wanting so badly to help people. She wouldn't be crying her heart out and like feeling so deeply that she knows she's meant to be doing this thing and she's tired of staying where she is. She wouldn't be having that strong of a charge, an emotional charge, unless it was meant for her. Unless literally her soul knows that she's actually meant to be over here. So you've got to trust that that emotional charge and that potential pain is there for a reason because it's showing you where there's a disconnect from what you're actually meant for and what you truly are. Your highest potential is calling you forward, and there's pain because you're still staying back in a smaller version of yourself. So, trusting that that calling is there for a reason and supporting yourself in getting there. And as I said, the 5-day Release to Thrive challenge would be super helpful in getting you there and getting you started and making really big shifts around how you see yourself and how you show up in the world. And the link for that is down below to get started. Also, if you want to do more of this, this is definitely what I teach inside Thrive, which is my 3-month program, all about stepping into a life of passion and purpose and ultimately aligning with your higher self and your soul and what you're here to do so that you can confidently create that life that you dream of, that you desire, that you deserve. So there's a link for that if you want to know more information as well. And thank you so much for being here. I am sending you so much love and so excited for your transformation and the different things that you're going to bring forward in the world by making these shifts in your life. As I said, please feel free to come back, comment, let me know what changes you notice as you do this. Let that be your accountability of like, I'm going to come back and tell Kara. I'm going to come back and tell her the coolest thing because I'm going to take action on this today. Because I want to celebrate with you and yeah, you can do it. I'm sending you lots of love. I will see you again soon. Thank you for being here and take care.